Hello and welcome to our conversation with Illumio. I'm Alex Raven, CMO of COOLSPIRiT, and I welcome Trevor Deering along with me today. During the next 10 minutes, we'll be discussing building a long-term zero trust-based strategy to provide consistent cybersecurity while isolating key assets. Trevor, would you like to introduce yourself briefly?
Sure thing. Thanks, Alex. My name is Trevor Deering. I'm the Director of Technology for Illumio. And we're very fortunate in being positioned by Forrester as the leader in zero trust segmentation.
Brilliant. So let's get started. We've talked about how we can prepare for and stop ransomware quite a lot between us and between organisations, but surely it's best to build a long-term strategy that can protect against more than just one attack.
Yeah, I think this is the thing, people are very, very focused on ransomware because it's high profile and, there's an attack, there's something on a regular basis. But I think the key is really understanding how you can build something a bit more long-term. And there's been quite a sort of a shift over recent years. And we've started to see, the adoption more and more of this concept of zero trust. To the point even now where we're seeing Joe Biden decreeing that government agencies in the US need to adopt a zero trust approach to things. So I think it's frameworks like zero trust that will ultimately make it much easier for organizations to move down a much more strategic and secure route.
And you mentioned zero trust, and that's sort of a new term within the industry that's come around recently. I hear there's potential problems with it, in its name, to the amount of data, the resource you need to implement it. Is it just too difficult?
Yeah, I think it is interesting, and then there is a lot of discussion, and I think the important thing is when we talk about zero trust, it isn't that we, when you're talking to employees, it's not that we don't trust the employees, it's that we shouldn't trust anything that we haven't verified. So it's a bit like having a passport. You wouldn't let someone into a country without a passport, and that passport verifies their identity. And zero trust is really, it's probably a good point to actually talk about what zero trust is. If you think about the way that we used to do security, we would try and identify the bad guys and keep them out. So think about, if you've got the population of the world is 7 billion, you're trying to find the bad guys and stop them getting into anything that you're doing. Whereas zero trust is sort of flips it on its head. So it spends its time identifying the good guys and letting them in. So instead of trying to trawl through the 7 billion to work out who's bad, if you've got a list of invitees of 100 people and you have verified them and they've got passports and you know who they are, it becomes much easier to just let those people in. And that's really the shift between what we used to do and what zero trust is all about. And it doesn't have to be difficult. You do it in slices, do it gradually, have a partner, someone like COOLSPIRiT, who can help you walk through the process. And I think that's the real thing is there is a lot of perceptions that it's difficult and expensive, but the reality is it can save you a lot of money in the long term.
It's really interesting, and I guess to take that a little bit further for our listeners and our viewers today, what's the three big benefits of zero trust to those?
Well, it's interesting because we have done some research and some other organizations have done some research, and the question that we asked and that other people ask is really, what do you if you've done it, what benefits have you found, and what do you perceive the benefits to be? And there is really three that come out, and let's, we'll do a countdown, like the top of the pops from 3 to 1. And number 3 is really around protecting sensitive data. So, if you are a bank and you've got customer information, you've got finance information, if you're a pharmaceutical company and you're doing trials and you want to protect that sort of stuff, then people, view that that's a way to do it. Number 2 was to reduce the number of cyber incidents. So generally just put a more secure environment in place. And number one, which sort of was quite surprising, is really about agility and cloud migration, because the great thing with Zero Trust is it's not tied to any physical infrastructure. It's not tied to any computing environment. It works the same in the cloud. It works the same in the data center, on the endpoint, whatever it happens to be. So the ability to implement Zero Trust and then to be able to do things like a cloud migration or digital transformation or whatever it happens to be, just makes your business that much more agile. So that was, what customers have told us are the reasons that Zero Trust is important to them.
And you mentioned there, I guess you mentioned about certain resources. If there's just one particular piece you really want to protect, like I don't know, a database or customer data, etc., is there a Zero Trust Lite version available?
Yeah, I mean, Zero Trust is very scalable. It works in exactly the same way if you're doing it very small or very big. So if you've got an organization and you've got something you want to protect, do that first. Zero Trust talks about protecting data and assets and systems and applications. So do it at the pace that fits what you actually want to achieve, because the two first things that you do are, as we said, is verification, and that's probably using some sort of identity access management tools to identify users and applications. And then the second thing you need to do is to sort of build enforcement points. And so that could be ring fencing an application. It could be controlling access from users to applications and things like this. And this is really where Illumio fits into that model, and why Forrester judged us to actually be at the top of the Forrester wave in being able to support Zero Trust.
I guess the viewers of this video, they're working in many different industries with different compliance and regulatory requirements. We've seen, just now, there's more about social responsibility and sustainability. There's constantly different regulations coming out. I know those aren't connected to technology, but what examples of, is there, does it fit into any certain regulations now, Zero Trust?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that while there isn't the sort of position that says if you've adopted Zero Trust that gives you certain accreditation, what it does do is it makes the ability to achieve that accreditation compliance simpler. So for instance, if you think about what people need to do with PCI in the finance industry, retail, whatever it happens to be, a lot of that is about being able to isolate certain resources. And that's exactly what Zero Trust enables you to do, because again, if you're verifying the identity of who needs to communicate with that and only allowing those people to do that communication and stop everything else, then you're able to actually to do that. Same goes with GDPR, and also with the NIST directive around national critical infrastructure. There are certain aspects to that to be compliant that you need to do. So for instance, in the UK, it's implemented but through the CAF via the sort of National Cybersecurity Centre, and they have defined within that being able to separate certain resources from others becomes an important thing, and that's absolutely what Zero Trust does. So while Zero Trust doesn't give you the compliance, adopting Zero Trust, just if you've got 3 or 4 of these things you've got to do, it just makes that life much easier.
Definitely, yeah. If it helps you gain compliance, then that's a great thing.
Yeah. And it's not just compliance, it as we said, it just improves your general cybersecurity hygiene, really.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. And
Speak to you again.
great to talk to you. Yeah, talk to you soon.